everyone for being here. I call to order the February regular scheduled meeting of the City Commission. Today is Tuesday, February 26th at 6 p.m. and we are in the Carrabelle City Hall chambers. We'll start with the prayer by Commissioner Melander, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the many blessings and gifts that you bestow upon us on a daily basis. And particularly here at the city level, we thank you for assisting and your hand and guidance in our endeavors to gather some grants and what have you. We see some coming to fruition on water and sewer and at the Carrabelle Airport. And we always working to apply for them, so we continue to ask your help and guidance and as we tread forward and trying to get financial support to improve the quality of living of the city of Carrabelle. And tonight we ask for your wisdom and guidance as we continue through our process here tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Does everyone have a chance to look over the January meeting minutes and the attorney's invoices?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve both.
I'll second.
So motion by Commissioner Pedrick and second by Commissioner Walden. Do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Next will be public comment. If you haven't already and you'd like to speak under public comment, please fill out a speaker card and give it to Ms. Keisha. And each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic you like.
I've got Dave Finkel with the Garden Club.
Come up to the podium.
Come up to the podium, please.
Well, thank you, Commission, for listening to me. My name is Dave Finkel. I moved to Carrabelle 2 years ago because my father wanted to catch a few more redfish before he went underground. His word, not her words, not mine. I work remotely, so why not Carrabelle? I live up on the hill near the Bottle House with our dogs, and I love it here. I'm thrilled to introduce the newly formed Carrabelle Gardening Club, a community initiative dedicated to enhancing the horticultural landscape and quality of life in our city. Our club aims to bring together garden enthusiasts, novices, and experts alike to share knowledge, skills, and a passion for cultivating beauty in our local environment. While establishing a community garden is a high priority for the near future, we are initially focused on these: organizing and educational workshops on sustainable gardening practices, hosting regular meetings for members to exchange ideas and experiences, and arranging garden tours to showcase and celebrate local green spaces. Though these activities, we believe our club will contribute to Carrabelle by fostering a sense of community among residents with shared interests, promoting environmental awareness and sustainable practices, enhancing the aesthetic appeal of private and public spaces, providing opportunities for intergenerational learning and social interaction. We look forward to growing our membership and working towards our future goals, including the establishment of a community garden, which will further enrich our community spirit. Meetings are held at the Senior Center here in Carrabelle. The next one is Friday, February 21st at 3 p.m. So please come. Thank you for your support. And I'll even try to make some sweet tea and have some snacks there. Next Friday at 3 o'clock. And thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. And good luck.
Thank you.
I remember a garden club being here once before.
Yeah, right there.
Do we have any other public comment? Okay. Right, we will move on to commissioner reports. Commissioner Walden.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Pedrick?
Good evening. I'd just like to remind everybody the annual Camp Gordon Johnson Museum Parade and Dice Run will be held on March 8th. This is the museum's biggest event of the year, so look forward to seeing everybody come out and enjoy the parade.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Commissioner Millender?
Yes, ma'am, briefly. Just for the board, but I think most of the board members already know, speaking on behalf of the police department and the chief, correct me if I'm make a slip up, we're down 2 officers. We lost 2 officers, and I would like to wish those officers well, because I feel like both of those officers left us under very good terms, and they have gone to greener grass, and I think both of the jobs that they went to will suit their needs personally and professionally much better. And so there's no ill will, and both of those employees did a great job for the city of Carrabelle. And I wanted to thank them publicly and tell them how much we appreciate it, Chief. And also, while we're on the air, to let everyone know that the chief's looking for some assistance. So if you know of any qualified officers that's interested in a job, please see Chief Hogan. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a short report. I hope you all enjoyed our faux spring this week and made it through our week of winter with no frostbite. Tomorrow is our Valentine's First Friday downtown in Carrabelle from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The shops will be open late with refreshments and snacks. Rio Carrabelle will have live music featuring Mr. Bo, and all of your friends will be there. So please join us and feel free to dress in your favorite Valentine attire. In March, we have the Camp Gordon Johnson Parade and the Carrabelle Culture Crawl, so make plans to join us for more downtown fun. I just got some more news today, so I'm kind of ad-libbing this, so bear with me, right before the meeting. Thanks to the Franklin County Commission, I have been reappointed to serve Franklin County on the Appalachia Regional Planning Council for another term, which I'm excited about because I love being on this board, and they give us so much assistance, which is greatly needed here in our small area.
I agree. Thank you.
The legislative and delegation state meeting was right before this meeting from 4 to 5, and that's where I just came from, with Senator Corey Simon and Representative Jason Schoaf. I requested funding for our Baywood Drive paving and stormwater project and for funding for a new fire truck for the city. So hopefully we'll get some funding for that, because the Baywood Drive, as you know, we've been looking for funding since 2018. It's an ongoing issue that we can't afford on our own. But I met some great contacts, so hopefully we'll see something positive from that. And that's all I have. Thank you so much. Now we'll move on to staff reports. Attorney Hartman.
Just only one, and just a comment that I too was at the legislative delegation, and the mayor did a great job explaining our priorities.
Thank you.
And they seemed attentive to it. So, and ours were, I think, reasonable in the grand scheme. So we'll probably be talking to him again during legislative days. But that's it.
Thank you. And Ms. Courtney?
All right, did everybody get their staff reports? Any questions? May the 3rd, I've been working with Jennifer Daniels with the Emergency Management Office, and if you may remember last year, they did a Fill the Bucket event, and they're wanting to do that again here this year in Carrabelle. And then along with that, to do a pod exercise, which pod is a point of distribution. So during an emergency where they would come and set up and give out water and food, and that would be our pod. So we're planning to do that on May the 3rd. And I need volunteers. So anybody in the public that wants to volunteer to come out and help give out, I guess they'll give out waters and some food also, just as a practice run. But they would like for it to be people who are going to be here helping during an emergency. So anybody that's interested, please get with me, and we need at least 6.
At least 6.
And then we'll also have a booth for the Build-A-Bucket from the city, so we'll have some people helping with the Build-A-Bucket.
Has she sent you any literature or flyer or anything on that that we could share on
She
social media?
hasn't yet.
Okay,
We're still in the planning phases.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, she called me and I spent an hour or so on the phone with her and her assistant talking about the setup. And of course, she spoke with Courtney for quite some time and they've requested some assistance from us, which is not necessarily bring it up here, but anyway, Courtney and the Road and Street crew will be taking care of that, I'm sure.
I am requesting to close the street for the Carrabelle Culture Crawl on March the 22nd, and that would be a part of Marine Street and Avenue B.
I will motion to approve that.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by myself and a second by Commissioner Millender. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
And then I've talked to you this week, some of you this week, about our grinder pump replacement policy. We've put in grinder pumps as part of grants in different locations throughout the community, River Road, Carrabelle Beach. Some of them were the late 90s, early 2000s. So now the pumps are starting to go out. And so the people have to purchase a new pump. When their pump goes out, they need to purchase a new pump. So we've worked with Charlie this week and come up with a policy where we have a replacement pump, a loaner pump that will loan them for 60 days. But within that 60 days, they need to purchase their own pumps. And so I have that documentation in the policy that we've come up with, and I can send that out to everybody. I know the mayor's got a copy already, but we have been working on that. And so if someone's grinder pump goes out, we have a spare we'll let you use for 60 days so that you stay up and running, but within that 60 days, you need to replace your pumps.
And I spoke to one of our residents about this, and that's why I brought it up to Miss Courtney this week, because I wasn't fully educated on this process, but it's just like an appliance you buy for your house. But in this case, they were purchased with city grants when the water district was expanded. So they didn't actually purchase it, but it belongs to them. So when that appliance goes out, it's their responsibility to replace it. Just like if your hot water heater went out, you would have to replace that. So that's a little bit of confusion came in there, but Courtney and Jerry from the water department has done a great job of putting this information packet together, and as soon as we have it finalized, we will share that with the public to educate them as well.
Mayor, I had a question on
Okay?
it. Is it clear that our staff's not gonna be furnishing the labor?
Well, Charlie can address that.
We are doing the labor. We'll help them out, get them through the process and the problem that they have. We've always offered that.
Charlie, maybe since you've been here, but I know some past history where that they've replaced them, the customer's responsible, that it's their pump, just like was stated here, and the customer's responsible for the labor, even though we're loaning them a pump before they buy a new one or whatever, but they're responsible for the labor, not the city.
Right. Maybe I should adjust.
Come on now.
Yelling in the back. So there are categories. There are people that bought their own grinder pumps along the way, and they are responsible for their own. And this particular group we're talking about is a grant that came through in the River Road area 7 or 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, somewhere in that range. And we carried them all the way through their warranty. We've always changed their pumps. We've always maintained their system, their grinder pump system, until the warranty ran out. And then we're in this process, you know, it's kind of new to us as well in a sense. We haven't had to go through that before. So as these are wearing out or the warranty is out, we're going and helping them keep going in the middle of the night or what happens. And then we ask them to do 60 days and get us a pump back, which is a struggle at that.
Okay, but I still don't, and just like was stated here already, I understand you put those pumps in on a grant. And that pump became the property of that customer, that owner. So it became their property just like if they had purchased it out of their pocket, even though it was paid for out of the grant. So it's their property now, it's not the city's property. And I understand the process of helping through a warranty period because there was a grant that done it. But once that's cleared, I don't have any issue with a loaner pump. You and I talked about it on another pump a couple years ago. But as far as the city employees being responsible for the labor and replacing their pumps, I don't think we're supposed to do that. Just like you just said, if you buy the pump, the city's not responsible for the labor. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
I don't have a problem. I'm sure my guys wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Yeah.
You know, because they wouldn't have to go out in the middle of the night and work on it. But that's something that we can make a policy for.
Well, that's the reason why I asked the question. I think
Yeah.
we should address it and clarify it before we go much further with the policy.
That's fine. That's fine.
Should we put this on our next agenda to discuss updating that policy?
And I will just add that if we do get called out after hours, we have an after-hours fee. If it's during regular hours, then they're not charged. So if they can't wait and limp along till in the morning, they need it done right then it's a fee for the overtime.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, that's just my feeling. I feel like we got two different standards there. If you buy it, you're responsible for your labor. If you're getting it by what Charlie's saying, if you get it on the grant, then the city's gonna do the labor. That's a double standard in my opinion. Because if you do it on the grant, the pump becomes the property of the landowner to begin with. They just got the pump for free because it came on a grant. But anyway, that's just my opinion, folks.
Mr. Charlie, I got one question. Because these are grant pumps that you're helping them on, once that goes out and they buy their own pump, does that assistance stop?
I would err on the side of caution on it, but we can make a decision here to be cut and dry on that. It's a gray area for us, so I would err on the side of caution and take care of the customer.
I think that's a good conversation for later.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, because I thought about this too, and I understand the first time it goes out, you want to make sure it gets replaced properly with the right product that, works with our system. But then after that, it wouldn't continue to be replaced by our services. But we haven't, like you said, this is new. This is the first time this has come up. So maybe we do need to discuss this further at the next meeting to come up to a concrete agreement.
I think it's worthy of discussion because there's a lot of variables here. I understand what Charlie's doing, and I do agree with what he's doing, where he is giving people direction, if you will, to buy a certain pump that's conducive to what he has, that he can loan them on parts and hookups, et cetera, et cetera. Don't want to get into the specific details. But I also understand that, as an example, Wind Supply and East Point are selling the same pumps, and they're readily available now because one of my sons just bought one from a recommendation to put in his place. So he can get a pump and parts from Wind Supply over there that's, if you will, conducive to the city's hookups.
Okay, would you guys like for this to be an agenda item at the next meeting, and we'll go, maybe you could send everyone the agreement you have now so we can think about what needs to be added or changed?
That'd be fine.
Okay. We don't need a motion for that, right? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Is there anything else? Okay. Next. All right, Ms. Keisha, do you have some dates for us?
I do. Get your calendars out. We've got, City Hall will be closed February 17th for President's Day. Our next CRA meeting is February 18th at 1:30. February 20th at 2 o'clock is P&Z meeting. And then our next regular city meeting is March the 6th at 6 o'clock. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And now we will move on to Mr. Large with the Novia.
All right, thank you. Our Lanark East and West Sewer Rehabilitation Project. Good news there, Florida Commerce has approved that bid package, so we're executing the contract with the contractor in situ form, and we'll be scheduling a pre-construction meeting within the next week with them. So that project will get going. The water supply well number 5, that'll be a new well. We are having Thurman Roddenberry locate some property corners for us at the water well site so we can determine exactly where that well can be placed, and then we'll proceed with a test well from that point. Okay, that's our active projects. For our grant projects, we're still looking for money for the Lanark West sewer improvement projects. I'm hearing that grant award may now be in July. And the summer camp water interconnection, we're still waiting for that grant award as well.
When is it coming up, Mr. Russell?
That one, I am not sure. I can't get a clear answer on that one, on the water interconnection.
Okay, I'm just hearing in discussion with some folks from the state level that there's going to be a considerable amount of money earmarked for water and sewer this coming year, particularly in the coastal areas, to get septic tanks off of.
Yes.
Yep.
I've heard that as well.
Okay.
And that grant will award, I'm hearing, in July. Yeah.
Great,
Okay. And that's all I have today.
thank you. All right, we'll move on to our advisory board reports. Ms. Tamara, do you have something for us? Okay.
Okay, let's see if, does that help? Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Well, hello, it's nice to see you all again. And I want to invite you to come down to the Carrabelle History Museum and to check out our tribute to, this is Black History Month. And what we've done for Black History Month is to focus some attention on some of the original Black pioneers in Carrabelle. And I don't know if any of you have seen, there's a photograph of, it's iconic. It's the Franklin County Mill, and it's got all the men that worked there. And they're just lined up all over the wood and everything. And there's huge, just a lot of faces. We don't know who any of the faces are, but we know that at least 3 of the Black men that are in that picture were signers of the proclamation to the county to make this a town. We know that they were emancipated slaves. We know they were registered to vote, and that they signed the petition that the community drug up. So we would just give anything if we knew which of those faces it applied to, but we don't. So we're asking everybody that comes in to please help us figure that out. But in the meantime, we've also recognized a lot of the contributions that, and people like Classy Lowry and others that you would all know. And so I just invite you to come down and see that exhibit. Will be up all month because it's Black History Month. And then on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, we actually have a talk at the Sea Quarters upstairs at Sea Quarters Marina. and they are so fabulous to let us use that facility for free. And the name of the talk is called Flora Fusion, and it's the connection between people and plants. And it's done by an archaeologist who's looking at the first people that lived here. In this case, prehistoric Indian people, as we like to think about that. Those people, and then later the settlers that came. What were the foods that they found that were already here? What did they figure out how to grow in crops? And how did they feed themselves off of what they found here? And it's a really fascinating talk, and she's spoken at our meetings before. She's a great speaker, so I'd encourage you. It's Saturday morning. It starts at 10. The talk is about an hour, and then she does questions and so forth. So it's a little part of your morning, but I would encourage people to come and see that. And then our big event for the whole year is the culture crawl. And our emblem this year, this little turtle on our posters and so forth, is Gary the Gopher Tortoise. And we're in like our 6th year of doing this. He exposes us to art, music, history, culture, and all those things about Carrabelle. And we've managed to move into that some antique cars of all sorts that are very fascinating, and people are it gets a lot of visitors when we have cars involved. But we also look at the architecture and the local music and the different things. So we invite you to come be a part of that. It's on Saturday, March 22nd, from 10 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. And almost said that backwards. It'll be fun, and it'll also get people out locally, eating in the restaurants and going in the stores, along with experiencing all those other things about Carrabelle. But we're working on those things, and we're still working on our applying for the markers that we've been working on. So we'll continue with that activity. Anybody have any questions?
No, thank you so much. I'm excited about Culture Crawl.
Me too.
Thank you, Ms. Tam.
Okay.
I have Mr. Bruce Graham with our Airport Advisory Board on the phone, and he's going to give a report.
All right.
You go ahead, Bruce.
Okay, hi, can y'all hear me okay?
Sure can.
Hi, good evening all. We're talking about some issues that are ongoing with the airport. Some of the good news is that the airport operation tracking device called VerTower has been working very well, and we're averaging about 200 takeoffs and landings per month at the airport, so for an average of 2,400 per year. And it's pretty good. The consensus has been, though, that these numbers, not just for us, but for Apalachicola and other airports, are running 50% of what had previously been estimated. So we're really getting a realistic look at what's happening, as does FDOT and the FAA. So it's a good system. And again, as you know, it didn't cost us anything. FDOT paid for it. The airport entrance gate is working fine now. We've got it set up to go from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And the blink camera system that we installed has actually been helpful in tracking vehicles coming and going. And in fact, the Carrabelle Police Department called for help identifying 2 vehicles, which Brian Hearn, who was operating that system for us, helped him with that. The rent parking collection drop box and signage is installed. The envelopes are all set, and we're hoping to get our first parking payment in the near future. Budget issues: as of January 8th, we'd collected $33,000 from hangars and tie downs. We've got another $6,000 remaining outstanding, which we should get by mid-year. Year-to-date fuel sales were $16,266, up $4,000 from what we got in December. So that's an advantage. Year-to-date revenues, including balance outstanding, is $72,000, up from $66,000 in December. Total year-to-date airport expenses, $32,000, up from $30,000 in December. Year-to-date airport budget balance is $40,345, up from $36,000 in December. So cash flow is going in the right direction. A couple of the big issues, we're talking about the terminal and hangar development concepts. I think you all have had some drawings I sent in for you can look at them. And it's moving right along. We're still looking at a June of this year start date to start construction on those. And they believe it should take 4 to 5 months to get it done. What it is going to do is impact our ramp space. We're going to lose half of our current ramp space. And we're planning on setting up some tie downs on the grass area just north of the current ramps, as well as moving the car parks out to that area. I think some of you all have been out there seeing the tie downs we've set up. So that should help a lot. The best news is the ARP3 program for clearing all the debris that was cleared from the rotating beacon all the way east to the fence. That work has been going extremely well, and it was also combined with the FDOT contract to clear the area from the rotating beacon west. So if you go out there this weekend, you won't recognize it. It's looking real flat. They're filling in holes, and the burn is going really well. So I appreciate the commissioner who recommended that we make sure and burn. Right, sir?
Thank you, Bruce.
And the other thing is runway reconstruction. It's still scheduled for June of 2026 to start. And the forecast is for 6 months to complete. It is funded, and they believe that they have sufficient funds allocated to complete that work. The concern we have is that duration may last actually 8 to 12 months instead of 6. And that's going to be a challenge on what we can do. We asked FDOT if they would certify a grass strip for us, and FDOT came back. They did a survey. They measured it and said they don't see a way to have a certified grass strip. And so the issue being is that there has been some discussion, and several aircraft owners called their insurance companies and said, well, if we land on the grass by the airport and it's not a certified strip, is that okay? And 4 out of 5 insurance companies said yes. So that is still an option we're investigating to facilitate an area wide enough for aircraft which are used to operate on grass strips that the current operators don't mind. That's a process still in work. And as you all might know, that we constituted a runway working group to specifically focus on how to deal with aircraft that may be in hangars, that may lose access to the runway, and how we work for those details and impact it. And we had our first meeting on January 21st, and we'll be continuing meetings about twice a month to work towards that, because we need to notify the current airport lessees that there may be an issue with their type of aircraft not being able to use the grass strip. And we're working that diligently and hope to have another report for you on that by your next meeting. Any questions?
Do you have any questions, commissioners? No. I think you covered it all, Mr. Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Steve, do you have anything from the lighthouse?
Yes, real quick. My name is Steve Allen. I'm with the Carrabelle Lighthouse Association. Had a great weekend last weekend. The weather was fabulous. We had the car show, vendors, more people at the park last weekend than I've ever seen at even Lantern Fest and the different events. It was amazing. And so we're really happy to have that. We have a full moon climb coming up this weekend. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you. All right, does that cover all of our advisory board reports? I believe so. Next, we'll move on to a public hearing, and I will turn this over to Attorney Hartman.
All right, the first item up here is a proclamation designating May 28, 2025 Carrabelle Food Pantry Awareness Day. And whereas the city of Carrabelle recognizes that food insecurity is a serious issue affecting many individuals and families in our community, and whereas Franklin County's population has 22% below the poverty level, 21% over the age of 65, and employment rate is just 40%. Whereas the city of Carrabelle values equity and believes that everyone deserves access to healthy and nutritious food, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Whereas the city of Carrabelle recognizes the critical role that community organizations such as the Carrabelle Food Pantry and its volunteers play in addressing food insecurity and supporting those in need by providing distributions of food on Thursdays 50 weeks a year to the community. Whereas Wednesday, May 28, 2025 is World Hunger Day. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Sabrina Brown, and the Carrabelle City Commission proclaim May 28, 2025 as Carrabelle Food Pantry Awareness Day and encourage all residents to learn more about food insecurity in our community, to render to support Carrabelle Food Pantry and recognize the important role that its volunteers play in addressing food insecurity. I further commend Carrabelle Food Pantry for their dedication to the community and their efforts to increase support of those in need. In witness thereof, I've set my hand and cause a seal of the city of Carrabelle to be affixed on this 6th day of February 2025.
Okay, and I believe we have a representative from the food pantry who would like to tell us a little bit more about it. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sherry Olson, and I'm a volunteer for the Carrabelle Food Pantry. I want to thank the City of Carrabelle for all their support to the Carrabelle Food Pantry's mission. As you're aware, the pantry distributes meal supplements on Thursdays from 9 to 11, which is thanks to a small army of pantry volunteers working. I've seen Sabrina on the line. I've seen Mr. Milner on the line before helping us out, and we appreciate all the volunteers of the community. Each week, the pantry serves between 130 to 150 families. The pantry strives to include in those meal supplements something from each of the 5 food groups, including approximately 15 items, as well as 2 to 3 pounds of meat. Last fall, facing a large year-end deficit due to increased food prices and an increase in the number of families served, the pantry launched a holiday fundraising campaign, collecting donated food items and monetary donations. We received an outpouring of support from local businesses, government officials, nonprofits, the chamber, churches, and residents to make this campaign a success. This campaign helped raise awareness of the food pantry and its services, which not only increased the giving to us, but also increased the number of families served. So now each week we are getting 3 to 5 to 10 new families signing up, which it's a wonderful thing that we've increased in awareness, but now we also have to increase our public awareness so that people know we're out there. We appreciate the proclamation, and we appreciate the recognition because we have over 40 volunteers that give of their time each week to support its mission. It's our goal now to raise awareness of pantry services in order to serve food to insecure families at Carrabelle. And then just one other item I wanted to mention, Franklin County EMS is going to offer a CPR class. We set this up so that pantry volunteers could get CPR training because we have 4 days a week, we have almost 30 volunteers, and mostly we're all retired people like me, and we may need EMS. And also going through the line, we have, 150 cars with sometimes 1, 2, or 3 people in it. So the CPR class is going to be March 20th at 6 p.m. at the Fellowship Hall in Carrabelle United Methodist Church right behind the pantry. And it's open to all the public, and I'll put it out in the media. But we just are trying to extend our hand in more ways than just the food. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherry. Do we have any questions?
No questions, just a statement to Ms. Sherry. Thank you very much, and your volunteers, for the service that you're providing to the community. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
And with that, Mayor, I motion to approve Resolution 1/2025.
Thank you.
I second this motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Millender and a second by Commissioner Gray. Do we have any other discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Sherry.
All right, the next one is our first resolution of the year, number 2025-1. It's a resolution of the City of Carrabelle approving the water and wastewater system asset management and fiscal sustainability plans, authorizing the city manager to take all actions necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution and providing for an effective date. Whereas the Florida statute provides for financial assistance to local government agencies and public systems to finance construction of utility system improvements, and whereas the Florida Department of Environmental Protection State Revolving Fund, SRF, has designated the City of Carrabelle's water and wastewater system improvements identified in the Asset Management and Fiscal Sustainability Plan as potentially eligible for available funding. And whereas as a condition of obtaining funding from the SRF, the system is required to implement an Asset Management and Fiscal Sustainability Plan for the city's water and wastewater system improvements. And whereas the Commission for the City of Carrabelle has determined that approval of the attached Asset Management and Fiscal Sustainability Plans for the proposed improvements in order to obtain necessary funding in accordance with SRF guidelines is in the best interest of the city. Now therefore be it resolved by the Carrabelle City Commission the following. Section 1, that the City of Carrabelle Commission hereby approves the Carrabelle Water and Wastewater System Asset Management and Fiscal Sustainability Plans attached hereto and incorporated by reference as part of this resolution. Section 2, that the city manager is authorized to take all actions necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution and to implement the water and wastewater system asset management and fiscal sustainability plans in accordance with the applicable Florida law and commission direction in order to obtain funding from the SRF. And Section 3, that the City of Carrabelle will annually evaluate existing rates to determine the need for any increase and will increase rates in accordance with the financial recommendations found in the water and wastewater system asset management and fiscal sustainability plans, or in proportion to the city's needs as determined by the commission in its discretion. And Section 4, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption.
And did we have someone? Okay. Hello.
How are you doing? My name is Matt Hollingsworth. I work with Florida Rural Water Association. I was tasked with trying to drag this across the finish line. It's been going on for quite some time. I happen to be the third person, and when you get that many people working on something, things can get muddled in some places. I'm going to quickly kind of go over these documents. They are rather large. There's a lot of information in them. An asset management plan. What we've done is came out, assessed all the water valves, fire hydrants, manholes, vac pits, vac stations, wells, towers, everything like that. We came out, we've noted the condition of them, we've put a replacement cost on them. Through that, we have several different critical assets on the water side. We've got different critical assets on the wastewater side. These are two separate plans because there's two separate pots of money. There's one for the drinking water side, there's one for the wastewater side. Should the city go out and get a low interest loan through the SRF, they will require these plans in place. You could also receive principal forgiveness on those loans also. In both water and wastewater plans, there is a priority action list. These are items that show DEP that you are not only adopting your plan, but implementing some of the recommendations that we've made. There's a lot of simple ones. We try and tee up at the top. That way you can go ahead and get those out of the way. It shows that you're making progress towards updating your system and everything. The biggest hang up we always have in these meetings is the financial section. When we talk about raising rates, that tends to get everybody's attention. In this plan, these are recommendations. Voting to adopt this plan does not mean you adopt our recommendations. It just means that you will look at your rates as it states and decide whether you follow our recommendations or make some sort of a different adjustment. We just want you to make sure you're taking a look at your revenue, how it's going up or down, and there's plenty of information in Section 7 of this. There's also a rev plan attached to the end of it, which I need to modify, that will show what kind of revenue you're bringing in, what kind of requirements both systems need to sustain themselves. The wastewater system seems to be sustaining itself fairly well right now. The drinking water system is where it needs a little more attention. We don't want the wastewater system sustaining the water system just because the wastewater system's doing better. You want them to operate independently, even if you have the same staff operating both systems. There's a lot of information listed in these documents. Section 7 being the financial, that would be the most important, but Section 4 is also very important. It goes through and lists out all the hydrants that we assessed that we found faults with. There was 353 that we assessed and mapped on diamond maps. Different percentages. You have 4.5% in excellent shape, which is rare. 62.6% in average shape, which is pretty common. There are 13 hydrants that we found in failed condition. It means they are inoperable at the time. A lot of the items on this list can be addressed without actually spending any money. Could just be going out, raising a hydrant, or digging some dirt from around the edge so it meets a height requirement, things of that nature. On the wastewater side, there was not as many issues that was noted. But there again, there's a priority action list and a critical asset list that states, you know, if you address these as showing progress towards DEP, these are the items we recommend you taking care of first, and then so on and so forth down the line. I know I'm kind of pushed for time. Is there any questions you have about any of this information? I know it's kind of short getting it Tuesday.
Matt, I really thank you for coming and giving some explanation. And I really don't know if my questions are for you or for Charlie.
Okay.
But one of my questions is, are those items that need correction, is there a time limit on those?
There's not a time limit on them. We'd like to see them, your failed items replaced almost immediately, sometime within the fiscal year. Anything other than your failed items can be spread out between 3 to 5 to 10 years. There's also an asset age in here that shows you when assets are getting older, these are the assets that you should start budgeting to replace later or come in the near future. We actually have a magic number, so to say. It would take roughly $11.5 million to replace the assets in the water system. That's for the whole water system. It would roughly take $30 million or $20 million to replace the assets in the wastewater system. And that's not including labor, permits, all sorts of other things that go along with it. That's just the assets themselves. According to the assets and the age and everything in here, on your drinking water, as soon as I find my right tab here, you should be putting about $281,000 aside every year to start replacing different assets that are aging out. Now, the wastewater is a little bit higher because it's a little bit more expensive. I believe it to be somewhere around it's about $491,000. Now, understand, a lot of systems don't have, you know, $1 million laying around. It is good to build your reserves. We don't expect that you immediately start putting $491,000 aside for your wastewater system every year. It's something to build up to as things change, as your rates change, as the price of your system gets more expensive to operate. That's when you start putting things aside. Over a 10-year period, you can work up to it. That way it's not all of your reserves at one time that you're setting aside.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
No, but thank you, Matt, and what I wanted to say is, my question there was broad. I have other questions, but seriously, those questions that I may have is really probably not my job. That's the reason why Charlie's back there.
Right.
Charlie knows the ins and outs, the particulars and the details, and
Yes,
that
he does.
engineer sitting right over
He's been
there.
very helpful with getting these plans put together.
And Mayor, I've got one question of Charlie, and it's broad too, and the question is what's Charlie's opinion on this? What's his comments? What's his, if you will, comments and thoughts on this board or on me voting to approve an asset management plan?
Thank you.
So that's where I lean on the experts, and maybe Courtney needs to step in here. I don't know how particular, but I would think that Charlie is very well versed on
Yes.
the information that this gentleman just gave.
Sure. You know, all of our assets that we have, as far as the utility go, they're all aging. Our newest one would be the wastewater plant, and it's, you know, at the 18-year range, going on 20. Some of the other stuff, like the water system, like I was explaining, a lot of that system, you know, goes back to the 90s. Some of the pipes and stuff were upgraded in between, and some fire hydrants, so. But, you know, everything has to be repaired and replaced along the way. 20-year-old anything is aged, as far as equipment goes. Let's hope we all make it a little further. Yeah.
Well, Charlie, again, I want to be comfortable on my vote up here. To me, my job is a policymaker and not an operations guy. You're the operations guy in this field. And what Matt just presented to us, and I know that's a broad presentation that he gave, because I tried to pull up the report, and there's 100 and some odd pages. And my vision's poor, and I definitely didn't get the chance to digest 100 and something pages of a report. So anyway, the bottom line is the only thing that's sticking in my mind right now as an example, those fire hydrants that need to be repaired. And I know we're in the middle of the budget year.
Sure.
Are you comfortable with repairing those right now with your current budget?
Yeah, I'd have to see which ones. I don't particularly know each fire hydrant that's on the list there that's got a problem. Some of them may be just as easy as raising them up, you know,
Okay.
where dirt's filled in around them, and you see they're only sticking in the ground that far. We do a yearly go to every fire hydrant, open it up, open the caps up, grease the caps, put them back on. We're coming through that usually in the wintertime, which is February, March. In that area, we go through and do them. All of our people in Lanark love to see that done all the time, so we try to stay on track with that. But as far as those fire hydrants go, if I had to replace 13 fire hydrants, you know, 5-6 months, I think we could handle that. They're not all that bad. But I think more of it's probably raising it up, or maybe a small repair or something. I haven't seen the list. I mean, I haven't looked at them, so.
Okay, and my final, if you can, Mayor, my final broad question to you. Are you familiar enough with this asset management plan that's been presented to us to approve it, and you're comfortable with going forward with it and being able to meet those requirements? I know that now that's excluding some rate increases, because I know that that's not being discussed right here, right now.
As far as the asset management plan goes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
We had talked to Russell in our last meeting about maybe having a second look at the rate increases and where we needed to go with that.
Right.
And maybe we could set up a workshop one day during the day or something where we could all get together and go over a large portion of it, because it is huge. You have a lot of equipment out there.
I agree with you.
It's a challenge to maintain.
Yep.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any other questions or concerns?
As city administrator, are you happy with the plan?
I'm fine with the asset management part of it. Like Charlie said, we are not happy with the rate study portion. We have asked Russell to review that. They've come up with some comments that we're gonna be sitting down with Florida Rural Water and going over some of these comments. But as far as the asset management plan, we're fine with that.
And that's the only thing we're discussing right now.
Yes.
All right.
And that's, like he said, that's our FRS funding, and so we need to be able to get those.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we need a motion to approve resolution number 1 2025. I make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick and a second by Commissioner Walden. Any discussion? All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that resolution motion carries.
All right, and we're on to resolution number 02-2025. It's a resolution of the City of Carrabelle urging the Florida State Legislature to enact legislation to provide a public records exemption for municipal clerks and employees who perform municipal elections work or have any part in code enforcement functions of a city, and providing for an effective date. Whereas many municipal staff who perform duties that include or result in investigations into complaints regarding election fraud, legal enforcement of hearings that could lead to a criminal prosecution, or code enforcement actions are exposed to threats and other acts of violence. Whereas municipal clerks often administer elections, and some election workers have been targeted for threats and violence due to the nature of the materials they are responsible for. Whereas municipal clerks are often involved in legal enforcement proceedings and actions related to violations of codes and ordinances, and occasionally these proceedings have led to retaliation and threats by defendants. Currently, public records exemptions in Florida include those for local personnel who either investigate, enforce, or otherwise provide a service that can result in contentious interactions when action is taken, and municipal clerks and their staffs fall within the need for a window for greater protection. Whereas the Florida Association of City Clerks is very concerned for the safety and well-being of municipal clerks and their staffs who serve the public on a daily basis and are oftentimes the first contact of citizens with the cities. And whereas the City of Carrabelle has complied with all requirements and procedures of Florida law in processing and adopting this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Carrabelle, Florida as follows. 1, the City of Carrabelle hereby adopts the recital set forth in this resolution, the whereas clauses, as the legislative findings of the Carrabelle City Commission. Number 2, that the mayor and commissioners of the City of Carrabelle, Florida hereby urge and encourage the Florida State Legislature to enact legislation to provide a public records exemption for municipal clerks and employees who perform municipal elections, work, or have any part in code enforcement functions of a municipality. Number 3, the city clerk is hereby directed and authorized to send a certified copy of this resolution to Governor Ron DeSantis, Senator Corey Simon, and Representative Jason Schoaf, the Northwest Florida League of Cities, and the Florida League of Cities. Number 4, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Millender and a second by Commissioner Pedrick. Do we have any questions? All right, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. That was easy. Okay. Next, new business, item number 1, discussion and possible action for the Poteet drainage.
So I've spoke with Mr. Poteet, who's asked for us to look at other options to reroute the drainage off of his property. So I've asked Russell to go out and take a look at that. And so Russell can take that over. Yeah, let me grab that.
We've looked at this. I can tell you, cross drain from Fifth Avenue comes across about right here. So what we consider doing is connecting that drainage system directly to the bay. Now this is a GIS map. It's not only accurate here, it's not survey information, and this is just a concept. But generally speaking, that pipe route would go due south from Fifth Avenue and then connect out to the bay. I've been told that there's a pipe already in the ground, which is what you see here, and that's the former discharge from the wastewater plant that was located in this area. I really don't. I think that pipe's ancient, and well, I'm not even sure if it's even there. And if it is there, probably won't be able to use it. So we're looking at this as new construction, new pipe. This profile here would connect out to the, I think it got moved somehow. That's okay. This would be roughly 750 feet of pipe. That cross drain is a double 36 inch, I believe. So we may have to run two 36-inch pipes out here. There's some analysis that we'll have to do to get to that point. And there is a wetland area through here that we would have to mitigate. We have to get through permitting for that to construct the pipe through that wetland area, which is represented by this flat portion here.
Just jumping all around.
Yeah. And this appears to be like a remnant dune. It goes up to about elevation 9 with sea level being 0, of course. So that's an option that we considered, depending on whether we need to run 2 pipes or 1 pipe. That's going to be in the $250,000 range, maybe $500,000 range. So
And what is our budget for this project?
Right.
50,000.
That's 70?
70, that's right.
Yeah, that we would, we'll have to do some surveying there, from some of the other maps I've seen. I think we would need an easement from Mr. Poteet for a portion of that pipe.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have we verified ownership of that property?
No. Well, we reviewed the property appraiser database.
Right. Courtney and I talked about it off the property appraiser's database. And she knows more about it, her and Keisha, than I do. But anyway, I think, well, definitely, we would have to verify that ownership of the property. And just right off the cuff, $500,000 for piping, and that is a storm drainage. And what if the beavers get in that pipe? And I said that as a joke, but seriously, what if we have 700 and something feet of pipe and it gets clogged up because all kind of debris is going to be going in there? Now, most of our storm drains, Mr. Russell, help me here. Most of our storm drains in the city going out to the river, those are much larger than what you're describing, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's true. And we wouldn't be able to, that double 36.
Right.
You know, it's already through that low area. The top of that pipe's already exposed.
Right.
So it's not, we can't necessarily make it a bigger pipe. But we can put 2 in.
So, and I guess where I'm going, I'm not anti us doing something reasonable, but I guess where I'm going with it, right in the beginning, I see it's gonna be very, cost prohibitive. That's just my first take.
I would say without some grant funding, I'm not sure the city
Yeah.
could accomplish that.
So can somebody, for lack of me not being up to date on it, because I'm fairly new, explain to me why we are considering moving the current drainage?
Just because he's requested it.
Okay.
And it needs to be cleaned out. The drainage needs to be cleaned out. But we have to get on his private property to do so.
Right, and the city doesn't have an easement there currently.
Yeah, I really wish we could work something out with the landowner to clean that natural drainage. And to my knowledge, unless somebody can show me differently, that is a natural drainage that goes through the man's property. That we could work something out to clean that at our expense to help drain all of those properties in there.
Russell, did you also look at taking it out Marine Street out to where the boat ramp is?
Yes, yeah, we did consider that. We actually looked at that some time ago. The issues there we see are utility conflicts, so some utilities would have to be relocated. I think that's gonna end up being a more expensive option to go in that direction.
It's a longer route as well.
And Mr. Poteet is here, so he can speak if you got something you want to say, Lee. Any ideas?
No, I was just here for the presentation. I was interested to see, what you guys come up with.
If it pleases the board, we can do some digging and find out if there may be some grant programs out there suitable for this type of a project. We can take a look at what might be available.
I think that's a great idea unless we have an extra $500,000 plus laying around.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, what are we obligated to do here? Could you give us some insight there, Dan?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any obligation. My understanding is, and I'll mix Courtney and Russell back in, but this, without going into the history, because right now, what it's causing is because of the natural drainage needs to be cleaned out. It's backing up up down 5th Street, back to the pond, which I know we just spent money cleaning out. So we don't want to stagnate that pond any more than, that'll just let it silt up quicker. So there is no obligation on the city to do this project. But what it is, it's going to improve drainage there.
And is it causing damage or any negative effects on this landowner's property?
So the city, we went through a long, maybe 4-year litigation on this, and we reached a settlement agreement that involved the city. The settlement agreement spoke for itself, and it just involved the city working with the landowner to clear out the drainage on his property, right? But that was, he's a private property owner. He has private property rights, and it was a mutual decision not to move ahead with that settlement agreement. So here we are, once again, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna let you finish. I just wanted to add something to what you said about areas that it's affecting.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it could put the city and that landowner at odds again in the future, right? That could arise. But right now, we're all working generally together. I had a good conversation with Mr. Poteet, where he wanted to, which I think is fine, subject to the commission's approval, but to be able to be kept abreast of what's going on. He plays a part even in just what we just discussed.
Absolutely.
Because of that knockout. So right now, we're all trying to work together for a solution. But we do need, in the medium term, to come up with a solution. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. And it would adversely impact his property. It's going to adversely impact city property.
Right.
It doesn't, what point I wanted to make, it's not just adversely affecting the city property. It's adversing a lot of property between the city's park and Gulf Avenue. All that low area in there it's swampy, been that way since I was a child. But if you notice, that water's holding up right there around those residents. It's not necessarily in anyone's house, it's not. But everything's staying saturated in there. And some of the road drainages where the roads were redone, it's affecting those where the water's just standing there.
Yep.
It's not allowing the water to disperse normally. And again, that's a natural drainage, and it as it's been said, it's just clogged up and it's not allowing that water to flow to the bay the way it should. I wish there was a better avenue for us to be able to do that. I do. And again, we want to try to improve the drainage. That's the purpose of the discussion here, is to improve the drainage, but we also want to do it in harmony with the landowners too. And like I said, anyway, I don't know where to go other than ask the landowner if they would consider allowing the city at their expense to clean that drainage from Gulf Avenue to the bay on their property. To me, it would kind of enhance and help drain their property, but that's their choice. They don't, they may not want that. So, but that would be, to me, a positive way to go. But again, that's entirely up to that landowner. So, yeah.
I got another question.
Okay,
This-
hold on. I just wanted to add to that. Finding and acquiring grants, just keep in mind, could take 3 to 5 years. So if Mr. Russell starts tomorrow, these things take forever, and that's a lot of time for this to go without being taken care of. So even if we had permission to go and clean it up, we could still look for those grant options for the future, but if we wait 2 to 5, 3 years, however long, it could get pretty bad for that whole area, including the landowner's area.
Well,
I will say, we set aside 70,000 out of the American Rescue Plan money, but for just that project. But there was other stormwater money in there, so there might be more than the 70,000 we may already have.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if Russell could come up and phase it out maybe, or I'm not sure.
And
Hold on, I think Commissioner Pedrick had a question or something to say.
Well, I was just gonna ask, why can't, if we get an easement, why can't we dig a ditch instead of putting pipe in it for now?
That ditch would then discharge to the existing wetland area,
And
which
it would
is
flood
currently
their
where that
land.
water's going anyway. So we wouldn't solve the problem that way.
Commissioner Melander?
Well, the only thing I was gonna add, Mayor, was even if we had the grant in hand tomorrow, the engineer hadn't convinced me that piping's gonna be the solution. That still could be a problem. And again, there's hurdles to cross if we had the grant in hand, like I said, tomorrow. Because we still gotta get partial ease, we first have to verify ownership of the land. And then we've got to obviously get an easement from the landowner to do part of it. So there's hurdles to cross, even if we had money in the pocket. And again, like I said, he hadn't convinced me that pipe, the way he's describing, is gonna be a solution, or if it's gonna be a future headache.
Right.
I'll respond to that. It will require maintenance. It will require periodic maintenance. It'll need to be cleaned out on some frequency, maybe annually, maybe every 2 years.
Okay.
And there are companies that do that. They'll clean that pipe out.
They like to do it.
I'm sure.
We have to get another grant.
Yeah. Joe.
Yep. Russell, could there be a ditch down Gulf Avenue and go the shorter route with a pipe across the shorter piece of property down at the curve that's closer to the bay? Go back right, yeah.
In the 7th Street.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, going down there where she's got her cursor now,
Okay.
if we could go that way with a ditch down the road, it'd be easier to maintain and then a shorter piece of pipe.
Yes. However, you're going uphill
Okay.
in that direction.
That's what I remember you saying, like 9 foot down there on that ridge, which is where the old, in the area where the old sewer treatment facility used to be.
Well, that's what I was thinking there. We could go under with the pipe going out to the bay.
Yeah.
That way you would be under that 9-foot berm.
Well, for example, going up the cross drain, the ground at the cross drain is about elevation 3. Where we would have to pick up, maybe a little lower than 3 actually. We would have to pick up that drainage, and going east along Gulf Avenue, it goes uphill to about elevation 10.
Here you go.
Once you get into that far side of the curve.
All right.
And we, just thinking off
It'd
the
be a
cuff.
deep ditch.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
Be a little
Wouldn't be on
dangerous.
his property.
Yeah.
It'd be
Wouldn't
easier to
have to worry
maintain.
about boats
Yep.
parking down there, trucks and trailers.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and when we got to that point to dump it into the bay, I don't think that street right-of-way is wide enough. There may be some private property between that street right-of-way and the water.
That's true, which would require an easement from them. Yep.
Purchase of property or easement,
Right.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Ken, did you have a question?
I was just gonna ask.
Would you come up?
Ken Siegert. I was just gonna ask about where you had the lowlands, what if you ditched to the lowlands, piped just the lowlands, and then ditched on to the water?
That, the lowland area
Yeah.
is connected to the wetland that the cross drain already discharges to.
Right.
So we would just be putting water in that same wetland area, just at a different location. So that,
Well, you're
it
gonna-
wouldn't solve the problem.
You're gonna pipe through the wetlands,
Yes.
right? So why couldn't you ditch and have a cistern and then have the pipe go through the wetlands so you weren't discharging into the wetlands? And then return back to just a simple ditch on the other side of the wetlands? So you didn't have so much, you weren't running so much
I
pipe
see.
and it wasn't so much.
Ditch a portion of it.
Yeah.
You have that profile. Right, so this is, this rise in the profile here, that's
Right.
about elevation 7. That's the old railroad bed. So, I don't think it would be cost effective to ditch through that
Okay.
and then pipe, and then to ditch through this area, that's elevation 9, that remnant sand dune. So that'll be a massive
Okay.
ditch, because we still have to get to elevation 0.
Yep.
Thank you.
You need to do a workshop on this, or we'll be here all night. Seriously, we're not gonna get this solved tonight.
No, but
Is that possible?
if that's what you guys would like.
I suggest that.
Can I? Maybe it's not the time to do it.
Mayor,
Yeah.
would you like us to go ahead and get the survey of Fifth Street done?
I think that would be a wise thing.
To go ahead and
what we
have the
own.
street, surveyed,
Yes.
for our portion in our files, because we don't have that on file.
Okay. Yes, and that'll,
We'll need it either way in the future, so,
Yes.
so let's start with that, and then once we get that survey, our city administrator can communicate that with us and we can schedule a workshop. And hopefully Mr. Poteet can attend so we can all try to work this out together. Is everyone happy with that for
You
now?
need a motion for that?
I don't think so, do we?
No.
No need for a motion.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're moving on to old business. Item number 1 is discussion and possible action concerning a new city logo. We've gone back to the drawing board and brought back the original boat. So, and keep in mind, please, that these are very rough sketches. This would not be the final product. She just is trying to get an idea of, what we like, what we don't like, what we want to see on there. But if we like one of these, she'll go through and clean up the water and make it more crisp and, finalize it. But we're just not to that point to where she spends hours and hours on it just for us to look it over and say yay or nay yet. But she listened to our last meeting, listened to all the feedback. I talked to her for a long time, and she's come up with this. It was hard to pick a spot for the police station because, everything's on the water. Police station's obviously on land. So when we talked about it, that's why she added that and the palm tree on the side. Now, if you don't like it, we could take those off, but I do think that's an important part of Carrabelle, is the world's smallest police station. That's kind of major. But we also thought that, the lighthouse and the water and the shrimp boat were important as well. So this is kind of where we're at right now.
Well, in my opinion, either one of those is good with me. We've teaked it.
I know.
It's time to come up with one we gonna.
I kind of like the two at the bottom. I like having the palm tree and the police station, and I kind of like the bottom left because it kind of looks like a life preserver. That's just me. But what do you
I
guys?
can't see where there's much more we can change than we've already changed.
I think the lighthouses came 100% a lot better.
And the boat. It's a shrimp boat, and it's like our old boat.
Email from Steve Allen. He sent a couple of suggestions that he had come up with. And if you want, I can put those up.
And keep in mind, we have hired Sign Design to do this, so.
Can I comment?
Sure.
Go ahead,
So
Steve.
the first one, I thought we were talking about a city logo in our first conversation. So I went about thinking about what represented Carrabelle in terms of it being on the river and all of that. So the one on the left, it was sort of an attempt to that. I put the world's smallest police station, the words on it, because I feel like that just having a phone booth doesn't necessarily help define that. So then I found and I talked to Michelle, she's a friend of mine, so I talked to her about the fact that found out y'all needed a seal, so I flattened out, rearranged, and the one on the right is the one. I had no discussion with anyone about color choices. These were just the choices that I made on my version of it, and I offer it as an option.
Thank you. Does anyone have any thoughts or suggestions here?
Can the peanut gallery have a thought?
You sure can. Come on up.
Lee Olstein. So I know you've hired this person and you've contracted with her. The palm tree is the state of South Carolina. When you see a palm tree, you think the state of South Carolina. We're not in South Carolina. I don't think the palm tree is applicable for us.
It's on our Florida flag.
It's South Carolina. And then the phone booth, unless it looks more like the one on the left, the city of Carrabelle, to me it looks like a TARDIS. And someone who doesn't know that we have the world's smallest police station is going to wonder what we have in common with Doctor Who. So it is a TARDIS. But I like on the left is that Carrabelle is blue on the state of Florida. You know where it is. You can clearly see it's not a TARDIS, it's a phone booth. It's more descriptive to me. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just taking some notes.
Was there any thought of having a redfish or, was there any thought about having a redfish?
I said a mullet, but we decided against that. And we narrowed it down to these few things, which, you know, we can change.
That almost looks like a redfish tail in the water there.
That's a beaver's tail.
And Sabrina, if you may, something about the palm trees, just maybe it needs brown on the bottom.
Okay.
It's just, everything else is so crisp and clear, but the palm tree and the phone booth
I
just
know.
looks kind of like cartoony almost.
That's what we were discussing, how to implement them with this vision, and it's tough because
Yeah.
it's the water, and those are not on the water, but
It is, I mean, that was the challenge. This is not easy, right? You want to put 3 or 4 different things. The more you add, it gets very difficult. Putting the state of Florida was what I used in that version to separate and make the space for all the items.
okay.
Sometimes less is more if you try to push.
Can you come up, please?
Sometimes less is more, and if you try to push too much design elements into one thing, you lose it all. So if you lost a TARDIS in the palm tree, the rest of it looks pretty sharp and easy to take in.
What do we think about losing the police station picture and the palm tree maybe having City of Carrabelle along the top, and then on the bottom, home of the world's smallest police station. We don't actually necessarily need to have a picture of it. How do, come on now.
The other Holstein will go this time. Mark Wilstein. The ones we paid for, they're okay. The one on the top left tells you everything you need to know about the city of Carrabelle. It says the city of Carrabelle, it says when we, well, I don't know if it says when it was incorporated, but it shows you the police station, it shows you the fishing boat, it shows you the lighthouse, and it tells you where we're at. So, I mean, it's a very simple design. Like he said, more is less, especially on a patch. Because if you're gonna put these on patches, nobody's gonna notice it. You know, nobody's gonna see what it is if you do all that stuff in there. You want it as plain as, I mean, I've done patches for motorcycle rides and charity events, and we always make them as plain as you can so that people can see exactly what it is. You don't wanna tell your whole story in a piece this big. You want just the basics to let people know where they're at and what we stand for.
Gotcha.
So, I actually like it better than all the rest.
Thank you.
I'm also a fan of Steve's.
I do too, I like it.
You're what?
Fan of Steve's.
The bottom left?
No, top.
The top left.
The blue and yellow, okay.
Well, I voiced my opinion about 5 months ago. I like the one we currently have.
He likes the one we have now.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we've already spent too much money. We got, we paid for it. We need to get a new one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like any one of those. It's just, I don't know how we can have a vote, but
I like the top left.
maybe we need
So,
to get the audience to raise their hand and get a count which one they like the best.
well, we've been working with Michelle. I mean, you
Just
obviously
comments.
don't have to go with it, but
It looks
just
nice.
keep that in mind.
Well, if he knows Michelle, let him
I
work
can
with
live
Michelle.
with either one of them.
I talked to Michelle, she doesn't care. I probably
Well-
asked her to do borrow her boat. Like frankly, because her boat's probably a little tighter. You know, we're good, so, I made sure that before I stepped into it, that I didn't step over her because she's a great artist. And the mayor is right. If y'all decide on doing one of her, she's gonna go in there and make it a lot better, you know. I spent more time on the one without any other discussions. She did 4 different ones.
This
So,
afternoon, like today, she did those. So she did say they would be cleaned up quite a bit, but this is just a general idea. So for feedback, what do we think if we got rid of the palm tree and the TARDIS and just wrote in it, home of the world's smallest police station? Because it's so small, and like everyone was saying, when it's on a tiny patch or even on the side of the police car, I mean, you're not going to be able to tell what it is. I mean, I'm having trouble seeing what it is from here, and that's pretty big. That's bigger than it would probably be on the police car. But if it just said home of the world's smallest police station, I think that would,
Well, maybe
I don't know.
The top left says that, doesn't it?
Maybe. Yeah, just as
Robbie's got his hand.
hold on.
I just redesigned our patch
Yeah,
last year.
The police has a different patch.
that's right.
Police
You have,
department has a separate one. That's what I was trying to get to there.
sorry. Well, streets and roads vehicles, my apologies, and other
And water.
city
So
vehicles.
my-
And theirs has the world's smallest police station, and they look amazing.
My thing is,
But it's,
That looks great.
yeah, it's the main feature. It doesn't have all the other stuff, so.
if you try to put all them words in that circle, it's gonna be very, very tiny for it to fit. Because when you look home of the smallest police station, that's a lot more words. So everything's gonna shrink down in size tremendously.
Yeah,
Well, no, they are in there differently because you have home of the, you would have to do something to this aspect instead of trying to put it all the way around. because if you try to add those three in that circle.
Well, you don't have to add them all three in the circle, but it could be incorporated similar to that.
We don't have to have home of the, we could just leave just the world's smallest police station too.
Yeah.
Look at the Johnny Carson show.
I watched that today.
All right, what we need to do.
What do we need to do? Okay. We still have some deciding
Can
to
we
do, it
narrow it
sounds like.
down just like one or two or three?
We sure can.
Let's narrow it down to two. How about that?
Two?
Yes. So how do we want
Let's
to
do
do that?
that.
Okay. What two do you guys like?
I don't care. I like the one on top there, it says City of Carrabelle, home of the world's small, but that's just my opinion, that's not what everybody else might not like. But we gotta do something.
Yeah.
Been at this a while.
I've heard a lot for the top left, so if we go with it and we go with hers and let her go play with hers some more, bring them both back next meeting
we'll have to
and
vote on
vote.
Yeah.
And if I were picking one of hers, my personal opinion, and I saw some of her early versions too, but I think the top right one is the cleanest without the tree. Yeah.
Without, right.
I think it's the cleanest, so that would be the one that I would choose out of those three.
Okay.
So if we
Tree.
narrow it down to two.
Okay. All right, I will give her this feedback. Probably just ask her to watch the meeting so she can absorb it. And we'll shoot for this again next month.
And if, one more thing, if anybody would like to offer a suggestion of a color change or something you would want, you've got my number.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item number 2, discussion and possible action concerning mandatory garbage. We got into this pretty deep at the last meeting, but I believe we were missing someone.
I don't think at the last meeting, but I think Dan was gonna come back with
Yes.
some.
That's right. Dan.
Yes.
Okay.
So just to kick us off, I believe you all have really two questions to go through. And we can certainly take the first, which may be the most controversial piece first, which is, but I'll talk to you about the law part that was really, as far as my homework. So the first one is, right now, we do not have mandatory garbage and we do not have exclusive. We don't have an exclusive provider. So the commission's first job would be to venture into the mandatory garbage pickup world, which we have under Chapter 166 as well as 403 of Florida statutes. We have the right under kind of our general public health, safety, welfare authority as a city to mandate mandatory garbage pickup by residents. And then we get to the stickier issue of the letter we sent out over 3 years ago and putting the private companies that already provide service in the city on notice, which that's what that did, that we're looking to go exclusive on it. And I've done a lot of research. As we talked about at the last meeting, let's say the solid waste lobby amended the statute, which talked about if you put someone out of business, this is in general terms, if you put someone out of business, that you could end up having to pay a certain number of months of their gross revenue, which would make this a non-starter by the city. We're not interested in that. And right now, and really just nothing, I've gotten a bunch of opinions from people, but as far as legal research, looking at the legislative history on it, as well as just the plain language of the statute, it looks like as long as we don't go into competition with them, right? So it's not the city taking on that as a public utility service, like the city of Tallahassee will do your water, sewer, and and they hire a contractor, but they're doing it. It comes on a city bill. So as long as we stayed out of the billing and we simply did it as a straight just dropped out of my head, but where we grant we basically grant, I don't say monopoly, but we grant an exclusive to somebody to serve, then we would, we could do that and get a franchise fee. So we give an exclusive franchise to a solid waste collector. Now, if one of the people being excluded, so in my mind, having just been through this process a little bit over in Apalachicola, and it was contentious and a little bit ugly, but you'll really only have two providers in the county for solid waste, so Waste One and Waste Pro. So if one of them, a prerequisite under this statute to sue the city for violation and seek those damages under the statute, they have to provide a 30-day notice. So they would provide, if we were going to get sued on it, we would get a lettered notice. And to me, that gives us kind of a final chance to step back, kind of evaluate if we, of course, you'd be proceeding on my advice here, that we can do this, because I believe we can. But if their lawyers come and lay it out for us, we wouldn't end up immediately in a lawsuit on it, is what I'm saying. So we have a chance to reevaluate if one of them challenges our decision to do this. When after we determine mandatory and we go with an exclusive, the person who misses out, again, could come at us, and they have to lay out their position to us. They have to literally serve us with the complaint, not even serve us, file it with us. So we get a free 30-day look at it, and I would, at that point, really sharpen my pencil and say, hey, I think this is a bluff, or I think this is real.
Okay.
And then the commission would decide how to proceed. Because we can always do mandatory and continue with this idea of multiple providers. That's not a problem.
I know there's a lot of different ways we can go about this, and that's why I'm hoping we can schedule a workshop to discuss our options as far as how we're gonna bill for it, what properties are gonna be required to have it, how are we gonna determine all of these things. So there's a lot of planning that's gonna go into this before it just happens.
And I would say, just one piece, you're absolutely right on almost all of it. The one is, I would say, if we could get into the billing part of it, but we could also leave that with the vendor.
Right.
Right.
My feeling, part of what the mayor said and part of what I said last month when it came up, I'm not ready to vote for or against. There's a lot of questions in my mind need to be answered. And that's if this board as a whole is going to decide that they want to investigate the possibility of mandatory garbage collection. I'll go along with investigate and I'll vote for that. But I'm not going to vote for or against mandatory garbage collection until I see what all the options are and whether it's going to be beneficial or non-beneficial to the residents of the city of Carrabelle.
Exactly.
There's a lot of questions, and the mayor just touched on some of those. So, folks, that's my opinion.
Do we need a motion for a workshop? I motion that we start workshop.
Get your calendars out.
Well, and I'm good with Commissioner Pedrick's workshop because first of all, this board right here needs to decide if we're going to go in that direction. We haven't decided we're going in that direction.
But we need.
That's why we need to workshop it.
Yep. But at that workshop, right now, we kind of need to give some guidance, if you will, to some folks on staff and that attorney to explore some of these questions we're going to have and possibly have some answers at this workshop.
Well,
if we have a workshop that we're going to set up and we go in that workshop cold turkey and we don't have any of these answers, we haven't made much progress. And Dan had some comment.
Yes, so again, having the burden of history on this since 2005, this has come up twice before in my recollection. It's come up twice before. It came up because certain citizens said, hey, I'm tired of seeing, I'm tired of people burning their garbage in their neighborhoods where they're living, or they just didn't like the way garbage was being handled in the city. They thought it would help clean up areas of the city. That's a public health safety issue that the commission can determine, is it a bad enough one to require mandatory garbage or not? And that's it. I mean, to me, that would be a great workshop.
Exactly.
Get to the bottom of that, and the citizens that are on, to me, I remember the battles, right? There would be some citizens that say, oh my goodness, how can you, and a lot of times, again, I'm one of them, right? Meaning I have no opinion on it, but I mean, I came from places, grew up in places where it was mandatory garbage. Like, everybody had a garbage can, and someone came out and picked it up. But then what you had at the meetings was simply people who had typically moved here from places that had it, couldn't understand why someone would burn their garbage on their property. And then you had some other folks that is what they knew. They did not want to pay. They had financial issues. They didn't want to have to pay every month and be strapped into garbage disposal when they could handle it themselves. And that's.
And Mr. Attorney, I agree with what you just said, because I've been putting feelers out with a lot of folks that have mandatory, and those that have experienced what the result of mandatory is. And I do understand citizens think that if we go to mandatory garbage collection, it's going to clean up everything. It's not. Talk to some of these folks that's went to mandatory, and where he just described that those folks that like to burn their trash, just because we have mandatory collection don't mean they can't still burn their trash. And just because we have mandatory, this is what I'm hearing from other folks, just because we have mandatory garbage collection is not going to clean up the yard. It's not going to clean up the road shoulder debris that's put out there. We'll have to figure out how to do what we're going to do with the road shoulder debris. And there's a lot of doggone stuff that's going to come into this thing. And he's absolutely right. I agree with him 100%. I'm like I said, if the board as a whole right here wants to move toward exploring, I'll go along with exploring, but there's a lot of work to be done before I'll vote for it or against it.
Now, isn't the county in the process discussing this same thing?
They're discussing it, but that discussion that discussion has died off.
Yeah, because it's pretty complicated.
Yes.
It's very complicated.
Yeah, but like I said, Mr. Pedrick's motion that we do a workshop, and I'll second that whenever we can come up with a date that everybody's available, and the public can come in.
Absolutely.
Too, and give their opinions. So.
Okay.
Get your calendars out.
Yes. Do we want to do this on the CRA? You would need to do it after 5.
We can do it after the CRA meeting.
Well,
You can do it any time.
It would need to be after, if it's on a school day, it'd need to be at 3:30 or later.
Okay, that's cool.
So we'll do it at 3:30, February 18th. How does that work for everyone? Does not work for Courtney.
Me either.
I have a softball schedule.
How
I have a
about
dentist appointment.
3:30 on the 19th?
Got any ball games?
No, but it's my birthday.
Oh.
That's your birthday?
You don't want to spend it with us?
Give us another
Rude.
date.
Will you see what I'm doing online?
The
19th?
The P&Z meeting's on the 20th, so we could possibly do it after that.
That would be, how long do they typically last?
Depends on what's on the agenda, but not very long.
5 hours?
No, 5 minutes
I was
sometimes.
like, what?
We actually are going to be discussing the commercial boat storage in C1, so it might take a little longer than they've been running.
So it starts at 2. So you think if we schedule at 3:30?
It should, yeah, I mean, I'll wrap them up if they're not.
They want to be out of here by 4:30, right?
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Thursday, the 20th at 3:30? Okay, and we have a motion by Commissioner Pedrick and a second by Commissioner Walden to schedule a workshop to discuss mandatory garbage. Got all that, Keisha?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion on this? Could we get a copy of Apalachicola's mandatory garbage contractor information just to kind of give us an idea
Yes.
and see how they do it?
Of course, of course. I
Okay,
wrote
'cause
all
I
that
know
stuff.
you
I
helped
can
them.
get you all that. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, perfect. And then we'll kind of go from there and get to, if we need to just make a list of questions for Dan, we can do that then, but at least it'll get us,
Get the ball rolling.
yeah.
Get started, yeah.
All right,
I mean,
all of
to-
those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Any opposed? And that motion carries. Dan, did you have something else?
No, and because I'm not really social media savvy, this would be on Facebook and that sort of thing. So to me, it's the public at the workshop, right? I always felt like it was the public that had to convince you all that the will of the people is to go mandatory or not, right? I mean, it was kind of,
Public's welcome.
Oh, make us a garbage flyer.
Well, I think Dan's right, but we're not gonna have on a workshop unless we ask him to come over here.
Right.
We're not gonna have it on social media.
We won't have it live. We noticed in advance. That's what
We'll
Dan's,
post
yeah.
the meeting on social
Yeah,
media, just
announce
that
the
we're
meeting.
having it, not,
Okay.
I remember, yeah, people had strong opinions on it.
Yes, they do.
Yes. We'll advertise it on social media, is what I was saying.
Could we get Oyster Radio to broadcast it?
All right, is that everyone good?
Good for that.
Announce
Okay.
the meeting.
Meeting
Yeah.
adjourned. Thank
Just
you
so
all.